Hey, welcome back to another We Turned Out Okay Parents Time Out. This one is for the week of May the 30th, 2017. And we're talking this week on the podcast, and consequently we're talking in here about what might lead kids to be fighting, when they just are in a really belligerent or aggressive mood maybe, and what could provoke that and what maybe could make it better. And one of the things that I like to consider when, especially when there's no provocation, or when it's really repetitive, when every time they get into a situation where they're bored, or every time they're in a certain situation, they get either angry or they get ramped up and they're running around, and then of course that promotes bad feelings, because we have to be the ones who are like, hey, quit it, cut it out. And that can be really, really frustrating. So today, for this quick timeout, I just wanted to ask you if your child is kind of behaving in this aggressive or belligerent, or even just like overexcited way that causes you to have to discipline, to consider your environment. Kind of take a step back and look around the child's environment and see if there's anything there that might be causing provocation. And the example I'd like to give is when I was when I was learning to be not just a preschool teacher, when I was learning to be a teacher, an educator. As an undergraduate, I studied human development, child development, and one of the classes I took was basically on classroom management. And they there was a lot of conversation and reading and experience in there that had to do with, when we change up the environment in a classroom, we can either make things worse or we can make things better in terms of kids' behavior. And at first I was like, really, I don't believe this. And when I would go out into classrooms, and eventually when I was making my own, planning, my own classroom, I really, really noticed this. So in other words, if we have an area set up in the middle that, like a lot of times in houses, the house setup is, you've got like the living room that's kind of connected to the dining room, that's kind of connected to the kitchen, and there's doorways, and there's a little bit of a running alley basically, and kids totally run, and then we end up being like, hey, quit it. And if we can put up a gate, if we can, like, for a while we had a table that partially blocked one of our entrances. It didn't completely block it, and it was a huge, huge entrance anyway between the kitchen and the dining area. And just by setting up a table, it was served as a little bit of a distraction. It was like a low kids table, tiny table, and it really worked well. It made it so that the kids kind of got distracted or interrupted in their potential for running. So that's really what today's Parents Time Out is all about. I hope you'll take this idea and run with it in your own house, and maybe elsewhere in the child's environment, and then it really, really helps you. For the We Turned Out Okay Parents Timeouts, I'm Karen Lockcope, and we will see you next time.